Hello, Mr. Burshadker, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. My name is Ronell Jackson, and I've been a pet lover for all of my 67 years, and I also encourage pet adoption also. That being said, I want to put forth a proposal to boost the campaign for pet adoption. In 2014, I wrote two children's stories and one rhyme about two dogs. Their names are Boston Swift, a greyhound, and South Philly Pete, a Scottish terrier. They were best friends, but they were also strays. One day, unfortunate circumstances separated them. Animal control captured Boston Swift. He and Pete don't see each other for 3 years. While in the care of animal control, Swift learns that he and several other dogs are scheduled to be euthanized. However, on the eve of the bitter deed, Swift is rescued when a kind old lady shows up and adopts him. One day, while sunning himself on the front lawn of his new home, Pete happens by. The reunion is a happy one, but Pete doesn't approve of his friend giving up his freedom to run free and wild. They go back and forth for most of the day as Swift points out the advantages of having a home. Eventually, Pete is convinced, and the kind old lady adopts him also. The story is about 31 pages long. It has funny moments as well as being very informative. My proposal is that you publish my rhyme in increments in your magazine each month. Also, I suggest that you have an illustrator provide sketches or strips to go along with the rhyme. Each month, I can provide stories of Swift and Pete. Each story will have an adventure, but it will involve different animals at risk while Swift and Pete come to the rescue. I'm not asking for any compensation, only that my name be attached to it. I have other manuscripts, and this may be an opportunity to get my foot in the door. But let me read a portion of the rhyme to help you decide. You've heard the old saying, every dog has his day. The title of my rhyme is Pete Has His Day. All right. Once upon a time, in the middle of spring, sat an old woman on her front porch swing. She hummed an old hymn on that good fine day, churning that butter the old-fashioned way. She kept a steady rhythm with that old mason jar, back and forth, hands gnarled and scarred. She smiled at the dog that lay at her feet, just as friendly and loyal as her own heartbeat. At first sight, she named him Slim Jim, rescued from the shelter from a fate so grim. The keeper had asked her in a sneering tone, "Why choose him? He's just a bag of bones." The old woman said, "I'll tell you what, in 1 month, he'll be fatting right up." So she took him home, nourished him to health, just an act of love, and it didn't take wealth. Such an odd couple, an unlikely pair. But what happened next, I'd like to share. It happened one day on a sunny afternoon, just one of those days in the middle of June. There happened to pass by Slim's front yard an old friend of his when times were hard. A scrawny little mutt looking worn and licked, infested with fleas and fat, nasty ticks. "Well, well, well," said the mutt with a sniff, "if it ain't my old partner, Boston Swift." Lying in the sun just half awake, Slim opened one eye to see who had spake. Get on your feet, you old bump on a log. You're a sight for sore eyes, wailed the little dog. Well, I'll be, said Slim as he jumped to his feet, if it ain't my little pal, South Philly Pete. It's been a long time since we ran the streets. 3 years, said Pete, without missing a beat. Why are you hanging around here? Asked little Pete. I live here, said Slim, and it's so sweet. You live here, said Pete. Why, that can't be. What happened to our motto, to live wild and free? Right at that moment, the old woman appeared and said in a voice so gentle and clear, Here's some treats for you, Slim Jim. Give some to your friend. Give some to him. Slim went and took the treats from her hand. Several little milk bones, his favorite brand. Eat up, little pup, she said to little Pete. You look like you need it and really beat. As the old woman turned and went back inside, little Pete stared with eyes very wide. Who was that? Said Pete to him. And what did she call you? Slim Jim? Slim dropped the treats at little Pete's feet, and then he sat down and began to speak. She's my owner, Pete. She's sweet and kind. She calls me Slim Jim, but I don't mind. But, said Pete, you're Boston Swift to me, and now you want to live under lock and key? Have you forgotten how we would dare to roam and explore without a care? Remember all the backyards and neighborhoods, searching trash cans for something good? We were never caught by animal control. We were just too slippery, smart, and bold. Remember when they cornered us against the wall? You picked me up and outran them all. You saved my life that night, Swift. Man, you had the speed. You had the gift. Let's hook up again and rule this big world, exclaimed little Pete as he spun with a twirl. Slim gave a little smile and bowed his head. He thought for a while, and then he said, We were lucky, Pete, and that's no lie. We did all those things just to survive. It was exciting at times, I would agree, but it was all out of pure necessity. It's one thing to be wild and free, but listen as I tell you what happened to me. We were on the run 3 years ago, twisting and turning, trying to stay low. That pack of mongrels launched their attack. You remember? Down at the railroad tracks. We separated and tried to throw them off. It worked, but I messed around and got lost. I turned the corner, then turned on the speed. But animal control was waiting for me. I sprinted down that alley like the wind, but a net appeared when I reached the end. They had me, Pete, and I couldn't escape. They hauled me in and locked the gate. I wasn't sure if they had caught you too, or those mongrels hadn't caught up with you. For 2 whole years I stayed in that pen, waiting to be adopted so I could escape again. And then one night I heard someone walking. I overheard these 2 keepers talking. I thought for a while that I lost my wits, for they talked about a particular list. They clearly mentioned pens 1 through 11, and I was kept in pen number 7. I'm not joking, Pete, or kidding around. They were surely planning to put us down. But on the day before the bitter deed, the old woman showed up and I was freed. She took me home and looked me over from head to tail like I was old Rover. She gave me a bath and scrubbed me good, then groomed me up as best she could. But you wouldn't guess what she did next. She arranged for me to see a vet. He examined me with a fine-tooth comb and gave me every shot that's known. I'm a well-fed, healthy son of a gun. Pet Pete, my owner, is second to none. I'll have you know that she saved my life. So for me to leave just wouldn't be right. Swift, said Pete, I gotta tell you, brother, you just exchanged one prison for another. Look at you with a collar round your neck. You're a lapdog now, and she's got you in check. Look around, said Slim, and come to your senses. Do you see anything here that look like fences? I've got a dog tag too, and I'm proud of it. It just proves that I am finally legit. I'm glad the old woman came along. I've got a home now, and I can't go wrong. I could choose to leave on any given day, but you know what? I choose to stay. Look at you, crawling with ticks and fleas. Your fur's all matted way down to your knees. Can you honestly tell me you're having fun? Trembling and scratching like you're under the gun? It's a matter of time until your last breath, before they catch you or you starve to death. You ain't dumb, Pete. You and I have been around, and by far, we're smarter than the average hound. Join me, my friend. Don't live the life of a stray. The old woman will welcome you this very day. Pete thought a while as Slim sat and waited, and it looked like Pete had been persuaded. Pete looked at the milk bones at his feet, then he gobbled them up in half a heartbeat. Swift, said Pete in a voice low and solemn, what do you and that human have in common? Yeah, you've got a home and your own food dish, but dogs and people are not a good mix. They hate us like disease and rust. What makes you think they deserve our trust? It's chemistry, said Slim, and it's not a sin. We were truly meant to be man's best friend. Swift, said Pete, it's all a delusion. How could you come to that conclusion? Pete, we've been orphans all our lives. We never knew about the other side. Since I've been here, it has put me wise. Let me show you some things that'll open your eyes. I'm not the only canine that's got a home. There are 15 dogs on this block alone. Across the street lives 3 basset hounds and a cute little setter 4 houses down. See that pincher with those 3 youngsters? Like us, he used to eat from dumpsters. His name's Riley, and his owner's name is Fred. And would you believe that he's purebred? Slim didn't know if Pete finally fully understood, so he took him on a stroll through the neighborhood. When they reached the stop sign down at the corner, Pete saw something that looked out of order. A man with dark glasses crossing the avenue, and a dog with a harness that he held onto. Slim said, that dog, like a lot of his kind, is a seeing eye dog for the totally blind. He rightly guides him everywhere he goes. He leads them round hydrants and telephone poles. When they go to the market or to pay the rent, he protects him from harm and accidents. See that bus coming? Slim began to say. Watch how he moves to block his way. His name's Ozzy, and he's strong and keen. Clyde really treats him like he is a king. You see, Pete, before you rush to condemn. Clyde loves Ozzy, and Ozzy loves him. But Clyde did something Pete didn't expect. He bent down and hugged Ozzy around his neck. Then he said to him, "You are loyal and true. I don't know what I'd do without you." Pete just stood there, shocked and confused. The dogs he knew were always shunned and abused. Pete was impressed, Slim could tell, for he could see a crack in Pete's hard shell. Pete raised his head and began to sniff. Slim also began to detect a whiff. "You smell that?" said Pete with a waggle. "It smells like an orchard of fresh red apples." "Oh, that's Ozzy," said Slim with a laugh. "Clyde uses shampoo when he gives him a bath." "Wow," said Pete as he almost tripped. "What an unbelievable relationship." "Pete," said Slim, "you can surely bet that you haven't seen nothing yet." And just as they reached Mulberry Park, a woman was walking her dog named Bart. She removed his leash and he ran to a tree, then lifted a leg and began to pee. But that isn't all Bart went off to do. He also went off to do number two. His owner waited patiently until he was done, and Slim knew Pete would soon be stunned. For the owner had a plastic sack and scoop and began to clean up all of the poop. "Why did she do that?" asked Pete as he stared. Slim said, "Bart's owner always comes prepared. She loves him and picks up after him, not on a bet, neither on a whim. She's a responsible owner, my canine brother, and she wants to keep the park decent for others. Pete, listen up and don't ever forget. Most people love and adore their pets. Sure, there are owners who don't measure up, bad people who neglect and abuse us. But don't you fret, because these are the facts. Those people get reported for their cruel acts." "Reported to who?" asked Pete, by the way. "Who can they call to come save the day?" Slim said to Pete without delay, "A group called the ASPCA. It's a serious charge, and this is no tale. Sometimes they find them, plus throw them in jail." Rounding a corner, Pete said, "Show me more. I've not seen a dog's life on this level before." "Well," said Slim, "we seem to be in luck. Here comes Mr. Clem in his red pickup truck." "Hey," said Pete as he squinted his eyes, "is that a dog on the passenger side?" "That's Buddy," said Slim. "He's from Germany. He once was as skinny as he could be, until Clem brought him back from across the sea, and now he's a part of Clem's family. Clem takes him everywhere he goes. He even enters him in dog shows. Every show on the East Coast, he's won. The winningest Rottweiler under the sun." "Hey, Buddy," barked Slim from under a pine. "I want you to meet an old friend of mine. This here is Pete, kind of small in size, but he's trustworthy and streetwise." "Greetings, Herr Pete," said Buddy at once. "I'm thrilled to make your acquaintance. Stop by sometime. I can't talk right now. We'll sit and kick it over some chow." "Pete," said Slim by a red parked car, "what do you think of this life so far?" Pete said, "Very surprising, I must confess. For all I've seen, I would never have guessed. But I'm just a mangy mutt, you see. I can't imagine anyone wanting me. I'm always chased and on the lam, and I don't even know what breed I am." Slim stopped for a moment on Slater Street. "You're a Scottish terrier," said Slim to Pete. "How do you know?" asked Pete with some doubt. "Are you sure you know what you're talking about?" "When I was at the shelter," Slim explained, "there was this small dog who seemed oddly tamed. He wore a gold collar and a plaid vest, too. And I'm telling you, Pete, he looked a lot like you. He was well behaved and groomed to a T. He didn't belong there, it seemed to me. I looked him over and then asked his name. He said, 'My owners call me McBain. I wandered off and got lost, you see. But my owners, I'm sure, will come for me. My name and address is on my dog tag. You can bet your life on a doggy bag. I'm a Scottish terrier and full of pluck. And what is your name, laddie buck?' I said, 'Boston Swift. It's a nickname. I run really fast. It's my claim to fame.' He said, 'Your breed is one of a kind. You greyhounds are the fastest canines.' 'Pete,' said Slim, 'be proud and pleased, 'cause now we know that we're special breeds.' Pete stood straight and lifted his head, proud to know that he was Scottish bred. "What happened to Cousin McBain?" asked Pete. "Did his owner show up and set him free?" "They claimed him," said Slim, "within an hour. Having a loving family is real power." Continuing their stroll through the neighborhood, they came to the top of the hill and stood. "Dogs," Slim said, "and humans are linked. They need our talents and keen instincts. Have you ever heard the term therapy pets? They visit the ill and the bedridden set. They may be in pain and burdened with fret, but the caressing and petting has a healing effect. You should see the kids who are terminally ill as their faces light up, strengthening their will. There's a woman who lives one block over. She owns a dog and his name is Grover. She trusts him. He makes her feel secure, for she suffers from seizures that are so severe. He senses them even before they begin and warns her by urgently nuzzling her skin. When it happens and she is lying prone, he rests his head upon her and moans. Pete, I could tell you for days and days how we dogs are needed in various ways. We are highly intelligent, as any can tell. When given a task, we perform very well. Whether CNI dog or therapy dogs, we rise to the occasion like leaping frogs. Show dog, hunting dog, or tending a herd, even bomb sniffing dogs, we're very alert. Skateboarding, surfing, and sledding too, we sense quakes, tsunamis, and we're loyal to boot. And one other thing, just listen to this. It's a truth that I don't want you to miss. A dog went missing and he couldn't be found. They searched high and low and all around. His owners were so terribly concerned, they offered $10K for his safe return. He was found on a farm near a tall haystack. The owners cried tears when they got him back. So I say without risk to life or limb, they need us as much as we need them. "Swift," said Pete, "you got me convinced. I don't know how I could have been so dense. Are you sure your owner will welcome me? After all, I'm just another mouth to feed." "Leave it to me," said Slim, "this old greyhound. Just follow me home when you hear that sound." Pete couldn't imagine what he meant by that. All he could hear were those pesky gnats. Slim roamed the hood until 6 o'clock. introducing Pete to each dog on the block. They ended up sitting in a neighbor's yard, chatting with Hazel, a fine St. Bernard. She was bragging about her litter of pups when all of a sudden Pete's ears perked up. A familiar sound about a mile away made Pete jump and begin to say, "What is that noise coming from the south?" "That's the sound," said Slim, "that I told you about. It's the old woman, so sweet and kind, calling me home because it's supper time. She takes this wooden spoon that she's got and beats on the bottom of a copper pot." "Hazel," said Slim, "it has been fun. We'd like to stay, but we've got to run." "The dogs in the hood," said Hazel, "know well that it's your owner sounding the dinner bell. When my owner calls, she just yells. You run along, and thanks for sitting a spell. Pete, you're welcome here any old time, because a friend of Slim's is a friend of mine. You're lucky to have lived this long as a stray, so go home with Slim, go home and stay." "Thanks for the welcome," said Pete with a bow. "I guess I'll be your new neighbor now." Slim took off and really put it in gear, with Pete barely bringing up the rear. "Slow down," said Pete as he huffed and puffed. "You know my short legs can't keep up." "Hey, Pete," called Slim over his shoulder. "It feels like old times, but you've gotten slower. Sometimes we escaped by the skin of our teeth, but no one's chasing us now through the streets." "Yeah," chuckled Pete, "our lives were intense. What a howling turned around change of events." Soon the old house came into view as they speeded along the avenue. Waiting in the yard in the same old spot, with that long wooden spoon and that copper pot, stood the old woman with her hair in a bun, with an angelic smile as bright as the sun. "Pete," said Slim, "you just follow my lead. Do as I say, and it'll be a breeze. When we approach, don't look out of place. Just sit and look up into her face. There's an old trick I learned from this old pug. He was a nameless pup. Now they call him Doug. An old trick you'll never find in a book. Just give her that old puppy dog look." And sure enough, just as he was told, Pete pulled up and really played his role. The old woman looked and began to sigh. She couldn't resist those big brown eyes. "Little pup," she said as she wiped a tear, "I think you just might like it here." I don't want to read the entire rhyme, so I'll stop here. There are 9 more pages to it, and it is hilarious. If you agree to my proposal, feel free to contact me at my email address. Thank you for your time.